Our assignment was to conduct 3 interviews based on a template provided that was about spiritual maturity and spiritual growth. And we were supposed to conduct 3 interviews, one with a parent, one with ourselves, and one with a peer. And then we were supposed to reflect on those interviews and then compile them into either an essay or a vlog. And I chose to do a vlog, so there's my vlog. So after I conducted the 3 interviews, I had to respond to the reflection questions. And the reflection questions were interesting because they took me deeper into what was behind the interviews. The interviews themselves sort of just scratched the surface, but the reflections helped me interpret them and find out what was behind them. The first question was what surprised me about my own responses. I said that nothing really surprised me about my own responses, that these courses had challenged me and now I'm set in my opinions. I'm set in my opinions because these courses challenged me to think deeper, to go under the surface of my own thoughts and opinions, and thus made them stronger. So as I was writing that, I realized how true it really was, and I thought about how else this course has helped me. And I think about my faith, and I think about how that has changed, and I think about how my thinking about that has changed, and I realized these courses have done quite a lot for me, and I'm glad of that. The second question was, what surprised me about my interviewee's response? And I think what surprised me most was how similar my brother's and my responses were. We said basically the same thing, his being just a little less detailed than mine. But this sort of illustrates and drives home for me like how the Christian tradition has sort of condensed what we're telling our young people, and how then similar they think. And maybe we should try and change that so people have different ideas, and that could make us stronger as a family. That brings me very nicely into the third question of the reflection sheet. What were the similarities and differences between my own and my interviewee's responses? Like I said earlier, the biggest similarities were between mine and my brother's responses. We both answered pretty typically. My mom, however, had a slightly different take on the questions and issues. She emphasized works in her answers about spiritual maturity and spiritual growth, which I believe to be highly important, but my time at Kicks has sort of included a slightly larger faith element to those ideas. The next question was, what questions on the interview did you struggle with? My response to this was probably different than the writers had in mind. I said that question 4 was the hardest. Question 4 being about how do you measure spiritual growth? I feel like spiritual growth shouldn't actually be measured or quantified. It's a highly personal and qualitative experience, and it's not really linear. So I think we shouldn't measure it at all. Just let people make their own spiritual journeys instead of trying to give them a format of how it should go. Because for some people, it starts in the middle of what most people would think would be the end or even the beginning. And I just think that if we turn it into a format, we're sort of like trying to force people to live a certain way. But Jesus said he'd accept people from all walks of life with all different stories. So we're sort of ruining the diversity of Christianity a little bit. The fifth question and final question on the reflection was, what steps do you want to take this year to develop a more complete understanding of the foundations for your own personal beliefs? I wrote, I want to look deeper into my beliefs and see where they stem from in the past. And this may sound simple and pretty worthless, but for me, it's important to sort of go back and see where I came from and how I've grown, and use that to help me grow more and change and become a better person, a better Christian, and have a better relationship with Jesus. So, in conclusion, these reflections and interviews were pretty interesting. getting 3 different viewpoints and then analyzing it. And I think some of the questions were pretty good, even though I disagreed with at least one of them. And I just think that maybe this course can actually help me. I sort of dreaded coming into it having Bible class, but I think it's going to help me. The end. Thanks for watching.